Greetings to all our audience across Southern Africa and beyond, across the globe. Welcome to our Saskao podcast. My name is Sharon Kavhu and I'm your host. Today I am joined here in the studio. We have Dr. Dube from the University of Western Cape. And we are here at the WeMAST technical meeting at Protea Hotel in Windhoek, Namibia. Welcome, Dr. Dube, to our podcast.
It's a pleasure, Sharon, to be here. Yes.
It is good to also have you. You were presenting on interesting aspects during your presentation, and I decided let us take us this discussion into the studio so that you shed more light on these aspects. So maybe before we start talking about the things and details, maybe you can introduce yourself fully.
Oh, yes. Actually, my name is Timothy Dube, like you have said. I'm a professor and a director for the Institute of Water Studies at the University of Western Cape. My major focus is mainly on earth observation and its applications in water resources, natural resources. Mm-hmm. So that's what I major in. Mm-hmm. But my focus of late, especially as part of the WeMAST project, mm-hmm. I am one of the pioneers of the project. I was involved in the development of the proposal, WeMAST, mm-hmm. and actually I was one of the people who helped to coin the name WeMAST when we were in Botswana in 2018, 2017, therearound, yes.
Amazing.
Yes, so currently I'm one of the work package leads, especially on earth observation data access,
okay,
as well as in situ data access for the whole project consortium.
Wow.
Yes.
That is huge. That is huge. So I'm mostly concerned about the Earth observation data access as per your presentation. Maybe you can tell the audience what is Earth observation data in the first place, and then why is it important for people to have the access for Earth observation data?
Yes, thanks very much, Sharon. I think this is quite a good question, especially in relation to our situation currently in Southern Africa and Africa beyond. Yes. Currently, we are faced with a lot of challenges, mm-hmm. and some of them are as a result of our footprint mm-hmm. on this Mother Earth, mm-hmm. but some of them are as a result of climate change and climate variability, so to say.
Yes, yes.
And these challenges, maybe just to mention a few, are related to wetland degradation. Mm-hmm. As you know, that wetlands are some of the key ecosystems that play a critical role, especially in Southern Africa, for our livelihoods. Mm-hmm. And some of them are related to flooding, mm-hmm. fires, and all those things. Mm-hmm. Soil moisture variability, which somehow affect agriculture. Mm-hmm. But now, traditionally, you'll know that we used to do research, and that research was mainly focused on going to the field and collecting data and analyzing it, okay. to have an appreciation of how these wetlands mm-hmm. or our environment is faring. Okay. But as you are aware, mm-hmm. the population has grown.
Yes, yes, yes.
And the level of degradation is quite immense now. Mm-hmm. And the impact of climate change generally is quite huge.
Yes, yes.
And now, so to say, you'll realize that we have limited data available from the field. Mm-hmm. Much of this being that we have limited resources financially, okay. to send people out to go and collect data. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So why am I bringing this background? I'm trying to emphasize how Earth observation came about and why it is important.
All right.
So Earth observation is mainly spatial data mm-hmm. that is collected remotely by satellites from space, be it airborne or spaceborne. Okay. And this data covers the whole world in some cases, depending on the type of sensor that is being used. Okay. So this data is available every now and then. For instance, every day, if it's rainfall on a daily basis. Okay. If it's for environmental or terrestrial application like your wetlands, sometimes it's available every 5 days, okay. depending on the product or the Earth observation type that is available in space.
All right.
So this data now has come up as a stopgap measure, especially for us developing countries where we have limited resources. Mm-hmm. So this spatial data now is the one that we use for wetland monitoring,
Okay.
flood monitoring,
All right.
human footprint monitoring on the environment.
Okay.
So that's the whole principle around Earth observation.
Wow.
So we can be able to track the level of degradation, be it on wetlands, water quality, water quantity,
Wow.
soil moisture variability,
Alright.
and to some extent even fires at a near real-time perspective. So that's Earth observation in short.
Okay, that is well detailed and so
Yeah.
profound.
Yes.
Quite educating. And nobody, okay, fine, a layman person like myself wouldn't know what the essence is on these observations of the earth. But well, when it comes to this project in particular, as per your presentation, when the data is collected, how do the community have access to this data? How does it benefit them in terms of their way of living? You were mentioning about that it's part of Earth observation to collect data on the floods, the types of land, the types of soil, and how does the community benefit from this data, and how do they have the access to this data?
Yes, that's quite a good question. Maybe to answer that question, I would like to break the community, term community into three.
Okay.
We have what we call the research community.
All right.
Ones who work with this data.
Okay.
Like us here, as WeMAST. We work with this data on a daily basis. We do the analysis.
All right.
And to understand and have appreciation on how the environment is faring, to see if it's undergoing degradation, and if so, which areas are undergoing degradation more, and this helps us to come up with intervention measures.
All right.
Then we have the other community that your mother and my grandmother who are at home, who are the ones who are cultivating the land, having their livestock grazing this land. That's another community. That community is mainly on the use side, on the ground. Then we have another community, which is the policymakers, which tries to enforce to ensure that the environment is well conserved. You get it?
Yes.
So these communities work together, so to say. Research informs policy, policy informs strategies on what steps should be taken. Yes. So I'll give you an example of wetlands.
All right.
If you look around, if you fly from space, you can see some of the patches of wetlands from space.
All right.
And you see some communities dotted around those wetlands.
Okay.
So those wetlands are the reason behind why those communities are found in those areas. Because there is good grazing, there is good water, readily available water,
Yes.
there is readily available grazing resources for their livelihoods. So this information from that community, sometimes they can't tell, or they can't clearly understand why there are changes in wetlands. They can't see that it's their footprint that is causing degradation of those resources.
The land, yes.
Until we do, us as researchers, we conduct research to demonstrate that this place before me
Was
and
like
you
this?
came to stay there,
Okay.
it was like this.
Okay.
But now when we came with 50, 700 cows, now the place is like this. Then we cry off drought.
Okay.
You get it?
Yes.
So that information that we generate as researchers, we share it with policymakers.
Yes.
Policymakers use it to inform their decision making from a policy perspective,
Okay.
management, and all that.
Wow.
From a disaster perspective, especially from floods, of late we experience lots of floods in Southern Africa, and that's one of the key problems currently. So we have to know where floods are occurring, which areas are more vulnerable, and which areas are likely to be at risk in future. So from a spatial planning perspective, we need that information so that we don't keep circling our people in these potentially risk areas.
Yes.
But also those who are there already, we should come up with mechanisms to say, how can we protect them from any
this.
potential floods?
Okay.
You get?
Yes.
And even from a rescue missions,
Yes.
you have to know how the terrain is like, which areas are at risk. When there is a flood, which areas are likely to be used as rescue sites.
Wow.
So that's Earth observation comes in there.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wow, this is very essential.
Yes.
You're coming from University of the Western Cape, and my understanding is that our population in Southern Africa, the majority are the youth. is there anything that is being done to also involve these young people to be trained, for them to have a better understanding on the Earth observation, and also for them to be participants of such a huge motion?
Yeah. Actually, it is one of our key trust as WeMAST, and this is highly supported by the Africa and GMS to ensure that we capacitate, we upskill our youth, we ensure participation, and this does not mean youth only boys, but boys and girls, disabled, but also our parents, because they are also in these spaces.
Yes.
So we have to do outreach to them so that they understand their implications, their footprint. So from a youth perspective, my colleague, if you heard the presentation from the capacity building presentation by Dr. Marambanyika,
yes,
you could tell in terms of numbers that we have empowered. But from a UWC perspective, because of the dire need of this information and these skills, we have introduced what we call quartal seminars, which means every year we have got like 4 seminars that are open to youth across Southern Africa and beyond.
Oh, wow.
They come and present their work, but also we invite keynote speakers to demonstrate the relevance of Earth observation, bring in new technologies, and share with these youth. So we have done quite exceptionally well on that front. But like I said, even in some countries that are still lagging behind, like Lesotho, Swaziland, we have been involved in a lot of capacity building training on Earth observation. And the reception is quite higher.
Wow.
The appetite there for this information.
They want to know.
Yes, because they've seen its relevance in resolving some of these challenges.
Amazing. That is quite interesting. Well, for this segment, I think we can just round up, as you can just give us a key takeaway points as we conclude the session until the next one.
Yeah, I think I can say it's one of the strategic consortium in Southern Africa. And its footprint has been quite good, but I believe there is still more that we can do, especially working together, ensuring that we promote this kind of work. And I will suggest that maybe in future we should even think of coming up with our own conference that speaks to wetlands, but even climate change, as it is one of the key aspects of SASCA. And I believe this will definitely contribute heavily in enhancing Earth observation utilization in Southern Africa, but also protect our community or ensure sustainable use of our resources, but also protecting our community from possible natural hazards such as droughts and floods.
Wow. Thank you very much, Dr. Dube, for your time. This was quite profound and quite educating. I'm also learning myself, and I believe that all of our listeners across the globe, they're also benefiting from this discussion. And to all our viewers, thank you so much for for taking your time to listen to us. And if you have any follow-up questions on these issues we are discussing about, feel free to follow us on our social media platforms so that you keep updated, you get updated information on wetlands assessment and management. Dr. Dube, thank you so much for your time.
It's a pleasure.